So allow me to welcome you.
Good morning.
To the webinar today. My name is Katka Shepkova, and I am one of the communication team representative at the HERA project. And so it's as we have announced that the webinar will start on the hour. Before I give floor to our distinguished colleague and moderator of the workshop today, I would like to provide you with a few technical details. So as I can see that the participants are arriving, I would like just to say again, warm welcome to the webinar that we've prepared within our HERA project, and we also invite you to consult after the meeting our website or connect to our colleagues in order to discuss a bit more and see our work so far that we have prepared on the interim research agenda for Europe in the field of health, environment and climate change. And so today we will look at the webinar on circular economy and health, and allow me to give you a few technical tips for those who are first time joining through the GoToMeeting. Please note that the workshop discussions will be recorded, and we would like to make at least some part of the recording available on the HERA website within a few weeks after the webinar, so there will be a possibility to check. We also say this is an interactive workshop, so the active participation by the audience is encouraged. We would like to ask you to write your questions to the chat, or then please send a message to HERA, and that message will come to me and I will communicate with the moderator of the webinar so that when he will be asking for questions, he will know whom to give floor. And in order to have the most pleasant experience of the webinar, we would like to ask you not to have your microphone open unless you are a speaker and you're supposed to have your microphone open. And I would also like to ask the panelists when they are speaking or when they will be exchanging views, please do have your camera open if your bandwidth allows that. So those are the organizational remarks. We will have now 60 minutes for the workshop, and I will now give the presenter rights to Dennis. So I hope that in case he needs to share the screen, he will be able to do so. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great meeting.
Thanks so much for all the organization, dear Katka. This is a very important event. I will not share now, but so that's an important event because I think circular economy is, as we all know, is at the heart of the EU Green Deal. So it is essentially a key pillar of the development policy in Europe for the next 7 years. And of course, it's on a wider global planetary perspective, it's a very important element of policies and measures that bring the economy towards a path that can allow us to meet the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. So it is really, really crucial. I'm very happy to have in today's panel 4 distinguished colleagues, Cartha Wright from the University of Pretoria in South Africa. We have also Dr. Antonis Mavropoulos, ex-president of the International Solid Waste Association, and he also has many other functions globally. He used to be the scientific, the chair of the scientific committee, the scientific director of ISWA for several years, many years. So he's actually responsible for much of the scientific work done on waste management, sustainable waste management over the last 10 or 15 years globally. And we also have Mario Malinconico from the National Research Council of Italy, will actually one of the most prominent researchers on the scientific aspects, if you like, of circularity. And we also have, as that's a change from the original plan, or an addition rather, by Dr. Antonis Gipakis from the Ministry of Research in Greece, the Ministry of Development, and the General Secretariat for Research and Innovation, who will give us let's say the policy makers, or like the political perspective in the debate. I thought that it was very interesting to be able to cover this from not only the research and sort of innovation in terms of implementation, but also from the point of view of the actual people who would be putting together the research, the policy priorities, both in different member states, like in Greece, but also, of course, in across Europe. Sorry for the phones. All right. I have asked the colleagues to give for a few minutes opening presentations from on their cut of the link between the circular economy and health. And then we'll open the discussion through a series of 2 or 3 key questions that, of course, the panelists will answer, but this will be an open discussion with all the audience. So indeed have an interactive workshop. So if we can all agree with that, then without further ado, I'd like to pass to give the floor to Cartha. Can you, I think I should make you then, actually.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Cartha, would you like to make Cartha the presenter?
Let me see if I can do it. I have to take the presenter rights back, I think. Let me see. You can you not do it, Dennis? Dennis, you cannot make Cartha presenter?
No, I don't think I can.
Okay. Let me try one more time.
I just did. It's a
Just happened
did.
now.
Thank you, Anais.
Thank you. Yes. So now I've just got to work out how I can see my screen without seeing all of this. What do you see now?
We see the screen and a lot of yeah. You have the view of active cameras. You have everyone and the screen. So I think that you can have hide everyone. You can just click on below hide everyone, and then I think you would be able to see the screen.
So if I hide everyone, and then you just see my slides, is that right? Or do you still see?
Yes. If you go to slide mode, we'll see the slide mode.
Yes, I am in slide mode now. So I'm hoping that this other little bubble, which I can see, you can't see. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. We can't see.
It is okay. It is okay. I think you can.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
That's perfect.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to engage with you all this morning. I'm looking forward to this interaction. My first real getting my head around circular economy and health was during my work with the United Nations Environment Programme Global Environment Outlook report that came out a few years ago. And since then, I've been working alongside colleagues in South Africa, particularly those involved in waste management, to better understand what this means for low and middle income countries. So just to start off by saying that we know that circular economy has been identified as an opportunity for progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals and resource efficiency. But for low and middle income countries that are still largely dealing with some basic development needs, they're trying to come to grips with what circular economy means and also what the national importance is of circular economy. So my opening slide illustrates the complexities of applying circular economy principles in low and middle income countries where there is typically a very large gap between high income groups and low income groups. And this is especially the case in South Africa. So you will see here very high density, low income dwellings, directly opposite more middle and high income housing. So the following slide is hopefully one which I can get to. There we go. Is one that illustrates a picture that everyone I'm sure very familiar with, the Cartha Foundation outline of a circular economy. I know that many people use others, but I just wanted to use one, and I've highlighted where low and middle income countries mostly apply circular economy. And I'm going to use a pictorial approach today just to illustrate some examples in my country where we are attempting, and it's not through necessarily governmental processes, it's more informal processes. The three circles in blue, the recycle, the refurbish and remanufacture, and then the reuse and redistribute, because that's really where the low and middle income countries play their parts the most. So the first slide, I don't know how wide will it move. There we go. The first slide is actually an example of a curbside waste collector. This is an informal person. He actually collects recyclables out of the wheelie bins. This is someone who I know. He comes to my where I live once a week when our municipal services supplied by the government come and collect the garbage bins. But by the time the garbage bins are emptied into the municipal trucks, they've actually been picked through by probably at least 10 individuals such as this person here, who is looking for either cardboard or electronics or plastic and other things that can be either reused or recycled. So this is one example of the reuse, and it's very much in an informal manner. There are no regulations, and there are also no safety precautions during this curbside collection. The next challenge is that most of the waste that is collected ends up on landfill sites like this. In the background is the city of Johannesburg. This is a landfill site in which there is access available to community members who live nearby, and in fact they would then go through the waste for a second time after the curbside collection, and the risks here in terms of environmental health are very large, from hazardous working conditions, exposure to emissions, the risk of needle stick injuries, because often there is illegally dumped health waste, exposure to human excrement from nappies or diapers, contaminated food, and a bunch of other infectious diseases that places these individuals at risk. But this is a livelihood for them. Another example where we're moving a little bit down the bubbles of the original diagram is the reuse upscale. So we have what has been called cottage industries. I'll show another example now, but this is the type of backyard work. So this is happening in someone's backyard. In fact, this isn't more of a rural village, but the same happens in our peri-urban low-income settlements, where metal is being used to make gates. You can imagine that the exposure to both the welding UV risks as well as other risks with working with such devices with absolutely no protection whatsoever. The cottage industry that I'm speaking of, here are two illustrations. So on the first side, We've got spray painting of cars, and of course that is an emitter of volatile organic compounds. And on this side, there is unfortunately no illustration, but this is car battery recycling a sign. And when we've investigated cottage industries, which is where many low-income communities are engaging in the type of activities that we are wanting in circular economy scenarios, but are actually placing themselves at great risk. So the breakdown here includes needlework, beadwork, childcare, photography, carpentry, money, lending, and laundry. And that was just some of the examples where people would have taken materials from waste sites and they are using it in one way or another to either upscale for resale or recycle. This slide is an illustration of recycling. So in this instance, the two examples are what we call an imbaula, which is, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, it's actually a paint drum, one of the 10-liter paint drums, which has had holes inserted into it, and it is used to burn wood or coal to make a fire. They start it outside and then they take it indoors. And the other example is in the wheelbarrow. There is a also a paint container, but it's made of plastic, and that is actually filled with water, and those would be used for water storage. So these types of repurposing materials that have the use for reuse is occurring in all the communities of low and middle income even too. So in summary, I have two slides, and I'm not sure I can see all of this with this bit in the way now. But there's really 5 opportunities for circular economy in low and middle income countries. This is according to a new report that I recently read, which was written in collaboration with the World Economic Forum. And I won't go through all of these because the slides can be made available, but really there's opportunity in food systems because we do have growing populations in low and middle income countries. And there is an opportunity to think about waste management, particularly for waste to compost and soil enhancer conversion. Then we need to think about packaging, opportunities for scaling plastic recycling, which I think is happening to some extent. We also really do need to think about PET recycling because this is a critical solution when it comes to managing large waste. Now I'm going to just quickly move this out my way so I can see the other one. This one is a more challenging one. Solutions should support a low carbon built environment, and the suggestion in this report is mass timber for sustainable building material. Yes, I agree with that, but I am also concerned about mass timber in terms of loss of natural ecosystems. We've seen destruction of natural ecosystems, for example, in related to emergence of pandemics, for example, change in land use. So there's some concerns for me there. Electronics, there's a huge risk to health around e-waste, something we've got to think about. And then there's solutions in fashions and textiles to go towards green manufacture. And I suppose one of the typical ones here would be the use of tires in making shoes. The last slide, if I click, there we go. Some recommendations in terms of policy for circular economy in low and middle income countries. And I'll just highlight the points in red because I'm going over time. Public waste management policy should really involve those working in the waste picking and informal recycling sector. In South Africa, we have a large informal taxi minibus taxi industry, and they do not want to be formalized because of the impact of the regulations. So any waste management policy, if it's going to be done in conjunction with government, needs to consult with those who are actually doing the work. The existing policies that we have sometimes inhibit these business models for circular economy, and that needs to be given some thought. Governments should support nascent remanufacturing and repair industries through public procurement. In other words, allowing into our central database for employing small and medium-sized enterprises who are making use of the circular economy principles. And the last slide is just an indication of 2 very good reports that I've read recently and that I've made reference to today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cartha. That was a very nice overview of the situation in low and middle income countries, especially with regard to taking stock of the situation in Southern Africa. I suggest we have questions to all the panelists in the end. Then we move on with Adonis Mavropoulos. Cartha, we need to pass the baton.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yes, I know. Anais is doing it. I'm not able to do that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Should I go on without presenting? Just
No, you can.
saying my.
Okay. As you like. No, you will be able to present. Give me a second.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for this invitation. It's a very, very interesting subject, and I think it's one of the key subjects that needs to be prioritized. And thanks to the work that Dennis and his laboratory is doing and other scientists all around Europe, I think it will be prioritized, because till now it seems to be one of the most underestimated aspects on the discussion on circular economy.
Now you have the rights, Antonis, so you can share your screen. You can share the presentation if you want.
Yeah, but I need to find how. Just a moment.
At the bottom,
from the settings?
Icon.
No, at the bottom.
Screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
It will happen. Not yet.
Yeah, just a moment. It says that my Mac is denied to give access to go to meeting.
The Mac has denied to give access to go to meeting.
It seems so. I'm trying to open its preferences. Okay, I did it. I don't think I can do it, Dennis, but I can just talk about it.
Do you want to send me the slides?
Yeah, I can send them to you right now.
And then Cartha, if you want. Anais, make me presenter.
I will send it to your AUTH email, okay?
Yeah. I can see I'm presenter, okay, that's good.
Okay, so let me start by explaining some key elements of the approach. The first thing I want to say is that the problem we have with circular economy right now seems to be that we are not, we are not ready to approach it scientifically as it must be done. This is because not only we have different definitions and approaches, but it seems that the whole concept of circular economy is not ready yet to be upgraded to a concrete science. And this is something that I think that it's important to be discussed and identified from the very beginning. Now, on the big picture, what we need to understand is that the discussion on circular economy starts from the fact that the economic growth of the global economy really touches the natural barriers, the natural limits of our planet. We have a continuously growing economy in a planet with finite resources, specific natural limits. Now, one of the things we are learning is that as the economy is growing, it increases the resource requirements to sustain at least a minimum level of quality of life, but it reduces the space, the geography, and the chemical capacity available to absorb our own waste, because the more the economic growth, the more waste. This is by definition from the basic thermodynamic laws. With circular economy, what we are trying to do is to use less resources and to produce less waste. But overall, as the economy is growing, there is no possibility to have a magic circle. There is no possibility to have something that will be forever sustainable unless we control the flow of materials. You know, I'm a chemical engineer, and one of the key things we learned in our science is that what matters is not only the absolute numbers, the absolute figures of materials, but the throughput, the flow rate of them. So what's happening now is that as our economy is growing, the throughput of resources is increasing and the throughput of waste is increasing. We knew for many, many years that the key concept to sustain our life is to have access to resources and energy. Now, we have also to add to this idea that another key concern to sustain our societies is also to have enough space and capacity to absorb the waste that's coming out of our activities without harming health and environment in an irreversible way. Now, this is also something that gets very, very close to the core of our beliefs and system. You know, we are innovating a lot. We are creating new materials. We are creating new chemicals. We are experimenting with more and more combinations of substances. The result is that right now we have roughly more than 100,000 chemicals circulating around the planet. Out of these 100,000 chemicals, 22,000 roughly are used only in a quantity of more than 1 ton per year, and less than 5,000 chemicals are used with a quantity over of 100 tons per year, which means that actually we have something like 76,000 chemicals, very poorly studied and characterized in terms of their hazards and exposure routes. And for the rest, I don't know if the total amount of chemicals we know pretty well their health impacts is more than 2,000 or 3,000. At least this is in accordance the latest report on chemical hazards from UN. Why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because there is one gap related to how circular economy will affect our health when we start making circularities the main path of our economic system. But there is also another issue which is not related to circularity, and it is our deep knowledge about the materials we use on a daily basis. How deep it is, this knowledge? How systematic is the health and exposure information about it? To speak frankly, we have to admit that we produce materials much faster than we are able to study their health impacts. And that creates an uncertainty that we have to deal in details. Let me give you 2 examples of what I'm saying, circularity failures. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know that one of the issues one of the solutions for plastic recycling is to use recyclable plastics for the production of new toys. At least this was the mainstream for many, many years. It has started to change for the last 2 or 3 years. Why it has started to change? Because using recycling plastic for new toys, we found out that we don't only recycle the plastic materials, we recycle also their own pollutants. And finally, we found out that out of roughly 400 chemicals found in hard, soft, and foam plastics, that are used by children, there are more than 120 substances that can potentially harm children's health, either via cancer or non-cancer effects. And these include 31 plasticizers, 18 flame retardants, and 8 fragrances. And 50% of these substances are coming from recycled plastics. That's a key element on circularities. Circulating materials must make us sure that the materials are clean. If they are not clean, together with the materials, we circulate pollution as well. So one key element that comes here is that advanced circularities, more and more clean cycles require more and more perfect depollution. And more perfect depollution means more, better, and more accurate waste management in the level of chemical substances, not only in the level of products of materials. Let me give you a second example. In our effort to find out new uses for recyclable plastics, 10 years or 15 years ago, someone thought that we can use part of these recyclables as microgrids for cosmetics. So we resolve one problem, finding out a new use for recyclables, but you create another one. All these plastics that we use as scrubbers in cosmetics, and that right now we are phasing them out, finally they became part of the plastic pollution of the oceans. This is also another example of how our effort to develop circularities can result in substantial health problems and impacts. Now, my conclusion here is that advanced circularities require more and better waste management and more and better final sinks for the pollutants that will be removed. And as we are heading towards the Industry 4.0 revolution, and the plethora of new materials and products are coming in use, we must be sure that we need final sinks for new, more complex and more difficult to manage substances. Either they are already here or they are coming. Now, my last part, because on purpose I choose to speak on the key concepts, concern circular economy and health in another dimension. You know, the concept of circular economy is not a neutral one. It's not a concept outside the social conditions in which it is realized and implemented. Let me give you an example. In Indonesia, only in Indonesia, there are about 3 million children polluted by lead because they recycle lead batteries in the most primitive way with hammers, fire, and primitive tools. And the result is that the lead is polluting their soil, and you know better than me what are the impacts of lead on human health. Typically, this is circularity. We circulate lead flows. But actually, is this a circularity we want? Are we talking for circular economy no matter what the cost be to human health and no matter what are the working conditions? Let me give you another example. Trying to develop circular loops for some valuable materials in mobile phones, we know very well that Chinese have destroyed whole regions. We know very well that the problems from mobile phones recycling in certain big towns in China are horrible. And there are problems that no matter what is the effort to cover them or to improve how they go out, they are there and they will be for many, many years. So my point is very simple, and I want to finish with that. Circular economy itself comes with a social condition. Either it will be a circular economy based on slavery, on children work, based on primitive ways that destroy human health, or it will be a circular economy that will improve working and life conditions and provide more prosperity for all of us. It can be circular economy with waste trafficking from rich to poor countries in the name of recycling and disastrous ways to recover some of the materials. but it can be circular economy also with an obligation of the biggest waste producers in the world to manage their own waste through international protocols that advance circular economy with a positive social footprint. Either it will become one way or another. We need circular economy to advance because it's becoming also a condition to manage climate change. And why is that? Because managing climate change requires the deployment of millions of tons of new metals in the planet by 2050 for electrification, for electric cars, for wiring, for wind generators and photovoltaics. And these 3 billion tons of metal required simply are not available by just new mines. We need 40 or 30% of them to be recovered from circular flows. So we are obliged to develop circular flows. But if we do it improving our societies or creating more inequality, is still an open discussion. Thank you.
As always, outstanding, Adoni. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the personal assessment, but all right. Thanks a lot for the talk. Let's move to Mario. Sorry. Dr. Marinconico, do you want to send me the slides so I can present them?
Well,
is this easier?
Good morning, Dennis. If I'm allowed to share my screen, I can try.
You are allowed to share, of course. So then, Anais, could you?
Yeah, then Mario,
can you allow me to share my
he has the right already. Yeah.
All right, great. I'm stopping then.
Let me try. No, not yet. I don't see my screen. It keeps saying that the organizer must give me the role of speaker. Okay. Okay. Yes. Now it looks like.
Dr. Marinconico, we don't hear you anymore. I don't know whether you're not speaking, but you have the right. So you should be just able to share the screen. Just click on the screen on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I don't see my.
But we see your screen. We see your slides.
Okay. I think. Okay. Thank you for allowing me. Can I operate it?
Yes, you have the right. You should be able to do that.
Okay. Seems to be quite slow. I don't know why. Wow. Sorry for this. It looks.
That's perfect.
Oh, I can see moving. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
It is the first slide. You see my?
Yes.
Okay, so just to understand if I am moving. So that's my my point. I mean, my presentation comes after the presentation of the first two speakers, Antonis and Karin. I think I can't remember exactly the name, but really I am a researcher, as you can see. I am a researcher at the Italian National Research Council, and I hold the presidency of ISVA Italy, and so that's I am a researcher essentially, and our activity is on many ways linked to circularity and sustainability. We work on polymers and composite from renewable sources. We work on the recycling of polymers and composite. We work on remediation and mitigation of plastic pollution. And the topic I was going to just highlight now, which I think has a link to what Antonis and Professor Wright said before, is the marine pollution caused by plastics. The plastic debris are really a big problem that is more and more relevant in the last years to direct impact on the environment and to the effects on animal health. So the microplastics, which normally comes from macroplastics, represent one of the most relevant alarms. Although we have no, as far as I know, direct evidence of problem on the human health at the top of the food chain. We know that, but this is still going to be analyzed by scientists. But for sure, it has an impact on marine environment and is an harm for the health of marine beings. So there are primarily microplastics, as you know. There are which are purposefully manufactured to have a microscopic size. Then there are also secondary microplastics, which comes from the degradation of larger plastic items, and they come from many different ways: synthetic textiles, tires, city dust, road markings, marine coatings, personal care products like cosmetics, and plastic pellets. The microplastic source was identified already in 2011 by researchers in the Plymouth University by sampling and analyzing marine sediments in 18 countries. And the proportion of polyester and acrylic fibers used in clothes resembled those found in habitats that receive sewage discharge. So the dimension of the released microfibers from clothes cannot be blocked in normal wastewater treatments, and so they regularly reach the oceans. According to the result of a project that we managed in a live activity, the Mermaids project, we assessed the role of domestic and industrial washing processes of synthetic clothes on the release of microfibers. And then we also developed some new materials and technologies for textile finishing in a way to reduce the influence. And as you can see, many companies were joining the project, from plastic and compound producer to companies that works on a textile. the mitigation strategies were essentially in two directions: developing finishing treatments to create protective coatings on the fiber, or use natural or biodegradable polymers as finishing materials. The way in which you can finish textiles with sustainable materials are different. You can do spray coating, deep coating. All of them were roll coating, or all of them were tested, including electrospray deposition of sustainable polymers. Which material? Bioderived polymers, biodegradable polymers, synthetic polymers, or also developing new system for laundry machine. For example, laundry balls that, due to their shape and internal structure, they can trap the microfibers and then can be removed and treated apart, or some particular bags that can be used to wrap the clothes, wash them, and then dispose the bag in a separate way, or design and realize a new kind of filters that are able in industrial washing machine to trap and remove fibers. And also there are examples of the way in which companies are approaching the fibers normally that could be found in fishing activities, like yarns that are collected by ocean activities to make clothes, to make swimsuit, to make shoes. So, in essentially, as I want to, as I also made a question to Dr. Wright in the chat, extensive use of recycling of clothes is not always, let's say, safe for sustainability. So, as Antonis said, okay, it is good to work on the circularity of plastic materials, either solid items or packaging or fibers, but then we must be sure that the plastic that we put back in the environment are treated, are safe, because plastic are organic material that undergo degradation, and the more you use it, the more they will degrade. So we must cooperate strongly with the chemical industries that to get the right answer of circularity coupled with sustainability. Thank you.
Mario?
Yes?
Okay. So this was the last slide, yeah? Okay, good.
Yes, it was my last time.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Mario. This was very interesting results. Actually, I was taking notes because one of the phrases you said was really very, very important also for our own research, but definitely for the research agenda, which I think is what we're looking for here. The next presenter is Dr. Antonis Gipakis. He's the head of unit for strategic planning in the General Secretariat for Research and Innovation in Greece, the Ministry of Development. So, Adonis, Katka, will you make Adonis the presenter, or if not, I have the presentation. So, Adonis, as you like, I can.
I have not a problem. If you like to share, it's not a problem for me.
Okay, then Katka, make me the presenter. Thank you. There it is, showing it, and share. There we are. No, you're seeing the wrong thing. You should be seeing this one.
Not yet.
What do you see? Do you see the?
You can put it in full screen mode, so it's better for.
Yeah. I wasn't full screen. No. I'm showing the wrong thing. Give me a second. I'm just showing the wrong thing. I'll go back. Yes.
So thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, the colleagues of the HERA project, and especially Professor Sarianis, to give me the opportunity to present you our policy planning of the new programming period. It means the national research strategy for development, technology, and innovation for the years 21 to 27. And so I tried to concentrate to the issues related to the webinar. It means how we deal with circular economy and health. Next slide, please. Hello. Okay, I have some slides related to the main pillars, then about the vision of the new strategy, the process that we use as to prioritize research actions, the main areas of research and innovation for Greece, new perspectives from the programming period, and then I try to give some information about the health circular economy nexus, and last slide, conclusions. So next slide, please. The national strategy for research, technological development, and innovation has three big dimensions. It is the green, digital, and inclusive. A big part of the national strategy is dependent of RIS3. It means smart specialization strategy for research and innovation. And another big area is basic research. RIS3 is funded from structural funds, and the basic research for national funds. Next slide, please. We have a plan for the new programming period, three big pillars of the strategy. The first one deal with investments in innovation. The second pillar has to do with research excellence and capacity, and the third pillar deals with the societal challenges, science and society, and of course policy support. And you can see here also some under pillars or some other areas that are related to each of them. Of course, we have a big pillar that is horizontal dimension and has to do with internationalization, integration into global value chains. Next slide, please. If I would like to speak about the vision of our strategy, is a new growth model, socially, economically, environmentally sustainable, based on knowledge and its commercialization for the product of high added value products and services, capable to integrate into global value chains. Investments in research and innovation are in line with the country's growth strategy and provide the necessary innovative background aiming at increasing the competitiveness of the Greek economy and tackling important social problems. It is a comprehensive agenda of a smart economic transformation and integrates all the four components of the policy objective 1. You can see the four components in this slide also. Please, if you make the next slide. For each triad, or for the smart specialization strategy, that it is a place-based strategy that focus efforts on specific sector and activities resulting from the analysis of the characteristics of the economy with a view to transforming the sectors. We use an entrepreneurial discovery process that is to identify business opportunities through the incorporation of research results in global value chains. The EDP is a business-driven open consultation process involving the quadruplex helix. It means business, academia, the public authorities, and of course the civil society. Next slide, please. About the 8 main priority areas, you can see here the main areas of our strategy. The most important that we try to give some more information is environment, sustainable development, and circular economy. We work with innovation platforms. We have an advisory group that we set primarily the priorities, and then we go to an open consultation with all the stakeholders in Greece that they are related to the strategy. So after the consultation, we give them the final version of the national strategy. Next slide, please. Here I have listed some new perspectives for the 21-27 programming period. You can see here that towards integrated multidisciplinary approaches like nexus of environment, health, climate change, or another nexus like energy, environment, agri-food, etc. Some other perspectives, they are deal with the fourth production revolution technologies as artificial intelligence, advanced ICT, etc. The industrial transition and decarbonization, of course, reskilling and education, as well as the skills components, grand societal challenges like health, climate change, food resilience, cancer, and newly pandemics like COVID-19, etc. Planning of integrated approaches to support other national and European strategies. You can see here Green Deal, circular economy, of course, the health and environment research agenda, blue growth, clean energy, hydrogen, intelligent transport, biodiversity, bioeconomy, etc. Multi-purpose technologies and security issues. And last but not least, we set new perspectives for the implementation of national priorities for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide, please. I have here some slides related to the health circular economy nexus. It is some results of our work that we do, because we are in the process to produce the new strategy. I have here some cross-sectoral approaches. For example, environment with energy and blue growth, environment with materials and constructions and agri-food, circular economy and environment, energy, agri-food ecosystems and their functions, circular economy and industrial symbiosis, like the nexus energy, environment, raw materials, health, including mineral resources, agri-food, etc. And of course, energy, water, nutrition, public and individual health, biodiversity, soil health, and many others. Next slide, please. If we concentrate on circular economy, we can see here some priorities that they are under development and our work nowadays. It's, for example, emerging technologies of circular bioeconomy with reduction of environmental footprint, product life cycle analysis, critical raw materials, value chain formation, chemical recycling of plastics, the application of IoT in the separate collection of discrete waste streams at the source by the local authorities, support for new jobs in cities and social integration through the circular economy, citizen participation and green solution in smart cities, application of hydrogen cell technology in transport, disaster, risk management and climate change in protected areas, and last but not least, development of economic models of circular economy under the health aspect. And next slide, please. Here I have some information that they deal with value chains that we build strengthen through the development of innovations. In the example of circular economy, I have some issues like best waste management and utilization practices in different sectors, production of products based on the principles of the circular economy, connection of research production processes with innovative methods, promotion of employment of research staff, reduction of carbon footprint, and of course, development of economic models that take into account circularity as they are necessary for the implementation of the circular economy. Next slide, please. I have here some conclusions that they are also under construction, if I may say that, that they deal with our work by the design, by the planning of the national strategies to eliminate for our sector, it means environment, sustainable development and circular economy, eliminate environmental exposures harmful to health, concerning a variety of stressors, for example, including chemicals and chemical mixtures, plastic waste in relation to circular economy activities. Of course, to promote healthy lives in sustainable and inclusive societies. Identify and prioritize knowledge gaps and propose strategies and tools to respond to the new and continuing challenges in the environment, circular economy and health nexus by ensuring the engagement of all stakeholders, as I told before. Establish research policy for the next decade, addressing identified gaps, policy needs and integrating circular economy and the health research. Thank you very much for your attention, and we stay then for the next part of the today webinar to answer some questions. Thank you again.
that made a round of the presentations by our panelists. We have agreed to pose them to have a debate on 3 key issues that I had already emailed to them before the meeting. One key one that Robert also highlighted was the question of identifying research questions, so the research and innovation gaps that they need to, that they have to be filled to address appropriately the transition towards a sustainable and safe circular economy. And I think I would like to start with this question. The other 2, just so that we know, had to do with the drivers that drive the link between the circular economy and public and individual health protection, and of course, what are the main health concerns. I think we discussed the last one through the presentations, and so I'd like to thank them for this. Maybe the key point here now is to discuss on research priorities and innovation gaps, so to speak. I know that Cartha has already replied on chat, but we can, if you guys like to open your cameras and on your cameras, we can have a discussion also live. Adoni, Mario, Cartha. Who'd like to start?
May I say some thoughts about it?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I think that the first priority, according to my understanding of the topic, is to try to be very systematic, precise, and scientific on what we call circular economy. And besides, and after having this, we need a more concrete approach than we have now, but this concrete approach should be delivered with proper metrics. Now, what we lack right now is health metrics relevant to circular economy. I have already proposed in my suggestions for research topics that we need to develop new health indicators about circular supply chains. Health indicators that will demonstrate if under which conditions health risks are less or more by circularities. This is something absolutely necessary because till now, all the discussion on circular flows is limited to money and material. And sometimes we put also jobs created. The health aspects need to be integrated in circular economy supply chains. And if we do it in an horizontal way, try to find proper metrics, and I'm pretty sure, Dennis, that the Exxon concept could be a platform for that, then we are going to have a very important tool to manage, forecast, and address the health aspects that till now are completely out of the discussion. That's my main suggestion.
Very, very interesting. Thanks very much, Adonis. Cartha or Mario, would you like to comment?
Well, yeah, okay. Out of what I just shown in my presentation, which is a very specific topic, as I say, we work and we believe that the world of bioplastics, circular economy in terms of using renewable carbon from underused biomasses, so waste biomasses, to be exploited for biodegradable plastics production, which in some highly, let's say, impacting areas like ultra thin packaging, food packaging, have the possibility to be a serious candidate for substitution, and consider that ultra thin plastic packaging covers almost half of the total packaging plastic used, which are almost half of the total plastic used. So it's a huge amount. So in my opinion, research in this field, biomass exploitation for bioplastic production and bioplastic combination with organic organic waste to give back soil fertility, so composting. This is circular economy, which in principle could create a very distributed supply of raw material, because organic waste, agricultural waste are available everywhere, not just as oil. And so in principle, it is thinking global and working local. That's my idea.
Right. Okay. Very nice. That brings us very nicely to Cartha, thinking global.
Yeah, so I agree with all of the presenters' comments. I keep trying to think about how one brings that down to grassroots level, particularly in an informal setting. So in actual fact, a lot of circular economy activities are happening naturally, only on the one side of the conceptual framework from the Cartha Foundation, if that's one we want to use. It happens naturally because people are living in poverty and trying to make livelihoods. So my questions really are, when we're thinking about applying research to solve circular economy definition or health metric indicators, will those be readily transferable from formal high-income countries to the informal low and middle income settings?
Right, right. Very interesting. Adonis, you package now. You did show a number of research issues and gaps.
Yes, I speak again from our experience and from our point of view. I think the transition to a circular economy is a systemic change. We, as General Secretary for Research and Innovation, has publicly stressed the role of R&I actions in achieving the circular economy objectives. As I saw before, during the current entrepreneurial discovery process towards drafting their RTDI strategy for the new programming period, advisory groups, as I told, in several key sectors have signalized the need for the targeted actions affecting each stage of the circular economy value chain. It means health and medicines, environment, etc. A suggested HERA priority coming from the health sectors, for example, is related to utilization of agricultural and fishery byproducts for the production of bioactive molecules for food supplements or dermocosmetics. Other information gaps witnessed by the Environment and the Circular Economy Advisory Group related to the implementation of the Safe by Design policy. Acknowledging the presence of toxic chemicals throughout the life cycle of a product has a significant impact on human health. For example, morbidity, mortality, and the environment recommendations call for the research projects to create new materials or inactive toxic agents, design products that meet safety standards from the outset, instead from replacing existing ones, as well as research and innovation in the field of toxic monitoring.
Okay, so safe and sustainable by design becomes an issue.
I think it's a big issue that we have to deal with as well. If we are policymakers, and we have to take into account as of this issue as well by our policy design, I think.
Okay, very nice. All right. let's have feedback of the audience. Maybe Robert, who posed the original question, and others, and then have a second round of the panelists. Because I would also like to hear your views, guys, on the drivers that link circularity, circular economy, and public health protection. Not what to do in research, but actually to really go back one step backwards and see what is it that drives this link. But let's hear Robert. Robert.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, I think I would like first to thank all the speakers. I think this is extremely important for us. This is part of our effort in HERA to actually basically inform and consult the scientists in the field to know what they think is the research needs, other research needs for the next decade in the field. I think this is very important. This was an important step in our effort. So I simply would like to thank them all, and then we will take good note. We have taken good note of all the suggestions that were made here.
Indeed. Thanks, Robert. Can we start back now, maybe from Cartha on this question of drivers? I think this will be very important, because if we understand the drivers, I think, understand the drivers is a key to being able to devise proper solutions to the problem. And of course, identifying that there is a problem in the first hand is the first step.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess that's where we are lacking at the outright. I actually flipped this on its head, because I was thinking, what are the drivers, and almost then what are the enablers that will help solve the challenge of the drivers? And several things came to mind. So first of all, we don't have available data and information. That's probably foremost. Then we have to think about access to finance and technology. I think that there is a significant lack of support because there's little understanding. I'm not sure what it is like in other nation states, but certainly where we are, there's very much a siloed approach, and getting different sectors to work together, which is essentially what one needs in a circular economy framework, is very difficult. And then to convince them to do so, to share access to finance and technology, is definitely going to be something of a challenge. Investing in quality infrastructure. That one is the infrastructure, at least for us in an informal setting, is lacking. I do wonder too whether, as a driver, the business support for this circular economy approach is there, because it would need to be. And then which has been described already, the development and implementation of policies and regulations, and what drives that. Particularly here, there's a disjuncture between our research community and our policy and decision makers. So that gap is driving inadequate communication, which sees lack of progress on the ground.
Very nice, Cartha. Thank you. Doni Mavropoulou, what do you think?
I think that, first of all, overall, we need to find a way to discuss and explain with the public audience about circular economy, because there is a serious risk that the circular economy will be more or less understood a little bit like advanced recycling, which is not the case. If this will be the case, we will certainly lose very important opportunity. Now, I think that in terms of the drivers, from a communication perspective, there are two major, let's say, aspects on which we can build. First, it's the subject of organic fraction from the waste and food waste. This is easily understood. It has also a high moral value for the consumers. And actually, the organic fraction is the only material cycle that can be closed locally in each and every place. So building circular economy understanding and approaches on the value of organic fraction and food waste is a key element to engage public audience. At the same time, this has a lot of health aspects. I was last week, before the Orthodox Easter, I was in Barcelona for 1 week, where we are trying to develop a circular economy hub, innovation hub on food waste. There are too many things that are relevant to health issues here. First, is the issue of compost. When you have compost, how and in which way you use it, either domestically or regionally, or even in your household, in order to be safe. Second, there is the issue how you advance circularities and prevent food waste, making sure that the food is always healthy. Third, there is the issue of how logistics, advanced logistics that are necessary in order to prevent food waste and maybe share a lot of food to other people, can be certified healthy. So the issue of health around food waste and organic fraction, I think it's a key element to build on circular economy approaches and make everyone understand, even municipalities. The second, that is very easily also a driver for that, is the aspect of plastics and marine litter. We have to build on the common understanding that plastics is becoming a very serious problem for the health of our oceans, for the future of fish food, for the future of beach communities. So there is a huge a plethora of visuals about that, and these visuals really make people more sensitive about it. This is something we can build, and here we can build a lot, because it can become a serious driver to drive both the aspects of circular economy, the understanding of health impacts, but also it can drive a lot the need to link health impacts with consumption patterns. I think these two could be massive drivers. And there is a third one. The third one, in my opinion, could be a serious shift to policy making to link the circular economy a little bit with the control of consumption. I don't think the need is to link them a little bit. I think the need is to link them, to connect them a lot, and to start speaking about the growth, not in general, but for specific materials and hazardous elements.
Thank you very much, Adonis. Mario and Adonis, we have about 5 minutes to close, so I want a brief statement from both of you. One from Adonis and one from Mario. Adonis.
Okay, about the key drivers. I speak again, such a policy maker. I think that circular economy is pivotal in meeting the Sustainable Development Goal 12, pledging for more sustainable and responsible consumption and production patterns. The goal has set an important target, I think, to achieve the environmentally sound management of chemicals and all wastes throughout their life cycle in accordance with agreed international frameworks, and significantly reduce their release to air, water, and soil in order to minimize their adverse impacts on human health and the environment, all this by 2020. Other SDGs such 2, 0 hunger, 6 water, 7 energy, 11 sustainable cities, etc., are relevant for public and individual health and can be partly attained by circular economy activities, I think. All circular economy actions leading to better materials and research management, reduce the GHG emissions, improved water and land quality, highlight the link between circular economy and health protection. Last but not least, I think post-pandemic recovery and the definition of forwarding thinking policies like RRF, Green Deal, initiatives review, I think can make room for including such measures.
Okay, thank you very much. Very important. Mario.
Well, according to my experience, and it becomes evident that there are not the same solution from all the countries. So I live in quite developing countries like Italy, but I'm sure that the concept of circular economy as to be applied in Italy could not be applied in developing countries, as Mrs. Wright showed. The situation is so different. We cannot talk about industrial symbiosis in those countries, but industrial symbiosis is a driving path for our countries, and more while they develop also in developing countries. Industrial symbiosis means the realization of districts in which, as in a natural community, the waste from one of company working in that area becomes the raw material for another company in the area. To create these districts is once again a way to exploit at the maximum level the value chain of the products from the raw material, which already gives waste because already raw material has underused the part, to, and I'm talking again also about the agro-food industry, the industry of processing food, which makes waste since the beginning, to the let's say sub-products of residual production that should be given to another company which is in the same district and could use it. And another concept is chemical leasing. Chemical leasing is a driving concept that should work more and more to extend the responsibility of the producers. Once I buy something, I don't buy a product, I buy a service, and the company that sells it to me must take care of the product since the end of the life which was planned for the first life. And so this means to create also repair region. The repair coffee are things that are going on and on around the world. Sorry, this is the way to, let's say, to involve together manufacturers, spare part producers, and local community. So from one side industrial symbiosis, and from the other side chemical leasing.
Very well, thank you very much, Mario. That's very interesting indeed. I'd like to also, on behalf of HERA, thank the panelists. This was a great discussion. I think we all enjoyed it. Thanks to the people who followed it. Thanks to all of the colleagues. If I can just sum it up, I think we came up with actually a really good number of suggestions, including I took note of the Exposome linkage that Adonis Mavropoulos mentioned, I think, as a platform for assessing properly the circularity in health. A very interesting point. So I think many of us in HERA are involved, so there will be an interesting discussion to continue with you, Adonis and Iswa. Transferable indicators to low and middle income countries. One solution does not fit all. I think that's a very key point that we have to drive home in Brussels with people who build the European research funding, because there is of course scope for international cooperation here, and this has to be adaptive to the actual needs. The question of quality infrastructure investment, I think, is very important as well, especially in such countries. And then we mentioned on specific sectors, waste and food waste, very important as examples, plastics and marine litter, and of course the questions of industrial symbiosis and chemical leasing as a very, very interesting thing, which is actually seeing not seeing products as their function, as the service they provide, not as the physical representation, which I think is a very important move of the thinking in this domain. And I think also the question of the linkage with the post-pandemic recovery process that Adonis Gipakis highlighted is key, because we should be looking at how we can draw lessons from the current situation towards moving in a better normalcy, not the classic, the previous normalcy, if you allow me this deviation. I see also some very interesting comments here from Simon Domakalski. Very good point, indeed. And indeed, the question of product repair is a very important issue. All right, with this, I have to close this. I really don't want to close but because it was very interesting. But I'd like to thank you all, and in particular also the colleagues Anaïs Devouge and Cartha Sepkova and all their teams for the organization and the support. Thanks to all the audience. I'd like to commit the 4 panelists. I know that you guys don't have time, but we'll do the homework with my team to try to summarize your key points into some level of monograph, if you like, that will go into the HERA research agenda. This is going to be very useful for these particular aspects of the future health and environment research agenda in Europe. But I think it would be worthwhile publishing some of the discussion we had, especially if we can build on it in order to have a more sort of structured outcome of this, if of course you agree. So we'll come up with something, and then of course, based on your time, we can move on forward. All right. On this, actually, if we have something useful that you guys think is important, then we can also invite the colleagues who have followed the seminar today to actually contribute to this monograph. It will be an interesting joint exercise, which will definitely can be a good nucleus of a different way of seeing circular economy that actually integrates health in its basic DNA, to talk COVID-19 jargon here. All right, thanks a lot again, and I'd like to
thank you very much, Professor Sariganis, for the invitation.
Thank you so much.
Great coordination, great. Bravo, bravo.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been great having you with us, and we are very pleased, and we will keep you posted about the news when the information comes online. And of course, we will consult you with further. And thank you very much for joining us this week already. Thank you. And with this, I hope, Dennis, to close this webinar for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.